G'day guys and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are going to be going over my round 8 tips and predictions. We're also going to go over my round 7 tips and predictions. Before we get into the video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, as we are on the road towards 2k subs by hopefully the end of the footy season. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Starting off by reviewing my round 7 tips and predictions. We got a total score of 7 out of 9 tips correct in round 7. Starting off on the Thursday night, Anzac Day Eve, we tipped Melbourne and Melbourne did get the job done. We were 4 points away from the actual margin. I tipped them by 16. They obviously won by 20. Then moving on to Anzac Day, Collingwood won against Essendon and I tipped Collingwood. I tipped Fremantle. Fremantle beat Adelaide by 18 points. And then moving on to the Saturday, this is where I get my first incorrect tip of the round. Starting off the morning, St Kilda Brisbane, I tipped Brisbane. Brisbane got the win. And then we're going to the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide nearly lost the win to North Melbourne, but they kept the lead, kept the win, and that's another tip correct for me. And the one tip I get incorrect, GWS versus Western Bulldogs. I tipped GWS and Western Bulldogs got the win. Who didn't tip GWS is my question. It was at Manuka Oval, usually a fortress for GWS. It's really, in my opinion, it was a shock to see Bulldogs just get up in the end of it. Like, it was anyone's game until middle of the bloody second quarter, and then the second half is where the Western Bulldogs started to strike. And in that third quarter, GWS only got one behind, which is embarrassing for them. Then moving on to the Sunday, Gold Coast Sydney. Gold Coast beats Sydney on their home soil. Moving on to the MCG, Carlton Geelong. I thought Geelong was better than that, but Carlton got a great upset win against Geelong. And then Hawthorn versus West Coast at Marvel. Hawthorn won by 50, but West Coast had a great second half, I'll tell you what. Now time to see who is in the top 3 for my tipping comp, which currently has 23 people. Let's try get to 25 people by the end of the round. I know lots of people who already have 100 members in their comp, but so let's just try get there as of now. Alrighty, and first we have Blues Premiers with a total of 51 points. Blue Moo in second with 50 points, and J Tomo with 49 points. Alrighty, now without further ado, let's just get straight into my round 8 tips and predictions. Alrighty, starting off Thursday, 1st of May, 7:30 PM. Essendon taking on North Melbourne. Now, Essendon, they're just coming off a bad loss towards the Pies. They just got absolutely blown out in the end. They only took one lead in the entire game, and in that second half, and that mainly the fourth quarter, they just really couldn't finish out the game. Todd Goldstein's return towards the ruck, though, was very, very good for Essendon. 38 hitouts, 4 clearances, 13 disposals to the Essendon big man, former Zach Merritt put on a huge show on Anzac Day. 25 disposals, laid 6 tackles, and had 106 fantasy points. Now, in North Melbourne last week, the quarter-time margin was 29 points, and then at half-time, they made a huge comeback in that second quarter, closing the margin to 12 points. North managed to close the margin to 12 points at halftime, with 2 late goals coming out via Larkey and also Paul Curtis. And in that second quarter as well, they managed to kick 5 goals and 2 behinds in that quarter. They did have a huge chance to win in that fourth quarter, but they just didn't use their scoring opportunities correctly. Luke Parker in his 300th game had an absolutely outstanding game, getting 27 disposals. But overall, in last week's performance for North Melbourne, it was a very bad start to their game, but they finished off very, very strong. They just couldn't get the winning score in the end. Now, obviously, this is probably going to be a dead rubber game. This is going to be one of the worst games of the round, in my opinion, and it's probably going to be a blowout. But it also could be potential for a huge upset win for North, and I do really see North getting the job done here. It's a really 50-50 matchup in my eyes. Some people say Essendon's going to flog him and all that. But if we saw how good North have of a list and how good they have been the last couple of weeks, especially that game against Port, if you didn't see any good signs of North in that game, then I don't know what you were seeing. I'm going to go tip the upset in this game. I'm going to go North Melbourne to win this game by 13 points. Now moving on to Friday, May 2nd, 7:40 PM at Marvel Stadium. St Kilda taking on Fremantle under the roof. Wangani Millerall was an absolute gun last week. For a key defender, he had 32 disposals and a goal, which is very impressive. And you never usually see a goal in majority of games for bloody key defenders. Mason Wood is going to be out this week with a concussion after suffering one against the Brisbane Lions. Higgins kicked 3, continuing his streak of kicking multiple goals in a game. And that fourth quarter by St Kilda was just pretty poor, to be honest. They didn't finish the game as strong as they could have. The Lions just rolled on top of them. After Higgins kicked his third in like 13 minutes into the third, it seemed to be just the Lions game from there on out. Now on Fremantle's side, last week in their performance against Adelaide, Brayshaw won the inaugural Arthur Leggett medal, 37 disposals, 8 inside 50s and 9 score involvements. Tracy's accuracy was, not going to lie, in my opinion, not too bad. Tracy kicked 2 goals from 5 set shots against the Crows. Their third quarter, Fremantle, they used that as a premiership quarter without a doubt. They went from leading by 20 to leading by 42 in a span of just a quarter. But then one poor side of their game that they had last week against the Crows was the fourth quarter. The Crows outworked Fremantle in the end in that fourth quarter, as Freo only managed to only score 5 behind that quarter. And if it was probably the Dockers lost energy in that fourth, which costed them potential scoring chances, or Crows just stepped up their game and they just performed to the best of their ability in the defense wise. Looking at both of these, both teams could show. Both teams have potential to have a great game this week. Obviously, Fremantle just came off a win. St Kilda came off a very big loss. I think it was like a 45-point loss to the Brisbane Lions, the reigning premiers. While realistically, Fremantle should have got the job done by probably over 25 points in my opinion. But for some reason, these matchups, it's always a 50-50. So no matter what, I don't think I'm going to get this tip correct. I just have a gut feeling, and it might change the tip midway through the round as well, probably after Essendon North, if I see the lineup. I feel like I might change the tip. But for now, I'm going to go tip Fremantle to win this game under the roof of Marvel Stadium. I feel like Brayshaw's just yet again going to come out to show, and Tracy is probably going to be more dead shot and accuracy in front of goal this week. Now moving on to the Saturday game, starting off in Ballarat, 1:20 p.m. May 3rd, we have Western Bulldogs taking on Port. Now, obviously, for Western Bulldogs, this is their home away from home. Bulldogs play their first game here at Ballarat for the season. Mar Stadium, obviously in Ballarat, as I just said like multiple times, is a very hard ground to come and play as an away trip against the Bulldogs, of course. The wind always comes into favour here at Mar Stadium. It's always super windy, as we saw last year when Bulldogs faced GWS. GWS were not used to the wind, and Bulldogs were just getting goal after goal after goal. They're super used to wind in Ballarat. Tommy Liberatore is an outstanding star for the Dogs so far this season. Currently, Liberatore is averaging 29 disposals this season, and last week against the Giants, he got 28 disposals. He's a very consistent player who always plays well week in, week out, home or away. He's always a player to name. Harms had a great performance last week, getting 4 goals, and Fraser definitely came to play, who's also a very big star in the Dogs win against GWS in Maranuka Oval, with 27 disposals, 9 clearances and 19 contested possessions after recovering from a hit to the head in the third quarter. Now, Port Adelaide, Horn Francis dominated against his former side, North Melbourne. He got 27 disposals, 7 inside 50s and a goal against his former teammates. And that first quarter for Port Adelaide was their highest scoring quarter of the year, and I think it was probably the highest scoring quarter of all this year for any team. Port had opened the quarter with 7 goals, 3 behinds, which made it the highest scoring quarter of the year. Now, obviously, not really much else I can talk about, but it's at Ballarat. The wind's insane. Bulldogs are so used to the Ballarat wind. You really have to go with Bulldogs to win this game. I would be really shocked if Port Adelaide get the job done here. I'd be really shocked. Now moving on to the Adelaide Oval, 4:15 p.m. we have Adelaide taking on Carlton. Now, for Adelaide, Thilthorpe drilled 3 goals to the middle sticks out of 5 set shots chances that he got last week, which is 60% goal accuracy against Fremantle. Thilthorpe was also shut out of the game for long periods of time, leaving the ground during the third quarter with a finger issue. Jordan Dawson was fighting hard for the whole game. He had 21 disposals and 6 inside 50s, playing the best footy he can for his club, showing the great leadership by putting his team on his back. And the comeback from 42 points down at 3/4 time to just lose by 18 in the end is amazing as well to see from Adelaide. The Crows limited Freo's scoring chances and let them have more inside 50s, and they used those inside 50s correctly closing the margin to 18 points at the end of the game. Carlton have now won 3 games in a row. Ever since Carlton won against the Eagles, they put their season back on track, getting an 80+ point win against the Roos, or I think it was 70 points, I have no clue, don't remember. And they also just got a huge upset win against the Cats last week. The deadly tools up forward have helped the Blues a hell lot getting their scoring chances. Mackay and Kerno both scored 3 goals each against the Cats, with the duo kicking 6 goals of the 14 goals that was scored by the Blues. Cripper is back in his form as well. Cripper hasn't had a greatest start to see his 2025 campaign, but he's starting to heat up in this season, getting 29 disposals, 9 tackles and 8 clearances last week. And the other week, I think it was against North Melbourne, he only had got 17 disposals, but still had a decent impact on the game. It's obviously at the Adelaide Oval, and Adelaide play very, very well at the Adelaide Oval. And obviously, looking at signs from last week, Adelaide would definitely play better, way better at home than away. But also Carlton could generally pull up another upset, and it generally is a 50-50 for this game as well. It's a great game. Probably I can't wait to watch this game, to be honest. But I'm going to go tip the home favourites. We're going to go with Adelaide to win this game. I feel like Adelaide at home is always just too deadly. It's too deadly of a side. Now moving on to the 7:35 p.m. at the MCG, we have Collingwood taking on Geelong. Now obviously last week was Nick Dacos' first time being captain, and he was announced as captain last week due to Darcy Moore with an ear injury. But this news made Nick the youngest captain for I think it was any club in 57 years. Nick obviously won the coin toss, and in style he kicked the opening goal of the game, and he ended up getting 31 disposals and 11 clearances, which is great to see from a captain. Josh Dacos, his brother, also came out to play as well. He clearly didn't want Nick Dacos to get all the spotlight on Anzac Day, so he was managing to find the footy so often in that first half, recording 17 touches just 5 minutes into the second term. Josh Dacos ended up finishing the game with 36 disposals and 9 marks. Collingwood's forward handball game is one that thrives on confidence, momentum and also connection, and this really showed against the Dons. Now looking at Geelong here, Bailey Smith, who obviously this is his first year at the club, he has performed week in, week out for Geelong ever since he came to this club. Smith has consistently gone around the contest, so he's able to touch the footy more every game. He got 29 last week against the Blues, 28 against the Hawks on Easter Monday, and in gather round he got 35 against Adelaide. And it has been like that for the whole season so far. He's been super consistent by getting around the contest and getting into the footy. Jeremy Cameron has also been a dead-eye set shot in front of goal for Geelong as well this season. Kicked 4 last week with 7 chances at goal, which is, to be honest, not the best from Jezza, but he's known to always kick him 4 or more goals in majority of the games he plays. He's always used to kicking bags, Jezza. He always kicks bags. He always kicks more than 1 goal usually. Now Collingwood, they are in their 2023 form, and I wouldn't be shocked if they get the job done here. Geelong, obviously, from looking at how they played last week, for Carlton, who have won both of their last 2 games before going to that game against teams that were in the bottom 4, just to lose to them, I feel like that's embarrassing on Geelong's behalf. For that reason, I'm going to go with Collingwood to win this game. Obviously, they're super deadly side. They're sitting first on the ladder for a reason, Collingwood, and they deserve to win this game. Now, moving on to the final game of the Saturday, also at 7:35 p.m, we have West Coast taking on Melbourne. Now, West Coast's second half against Hawthorn, as an Eagles fan, that second half from our game against the Hawks was sensational. The Hawks could have made the lead so much bigger. Could have been 100 plus, 200 points even. Generally, I was thinking that badly. But our defensive skills and work around the midfield as well stopped that from happening. Our pressure we used against the Hawks was great in that second half, and we even had chances to win the game as well. It would have been easy if that second quarter that we played how we did in that first quarter, third quarter and the fourth. Liam Ryan is definitely back into his form that we all knew to be after a couple bad weeks for Ryan, making mistake after mistake after mistake. He managed to bring the old Ryan we all know and love. Ryan kicked 3 goals against the Hawks, and they were goals that were very needed. Although Harley Reid had a great performance, 19 disposals and 2 goals, he still had a very downside impact to this game. He gave away a total of 6 free kicks, which is not good seeing from a great player like Harley that we all know him to be. Now looking at Melbourne's game last week, Salem from the interchange He had an insane performance. Somehow, from the interchange, he got 34 disposals, 13 marks, and 139 fantasy points from starting the game on the bench. Gawn also had an outstanding game as well. 34 hitouts, 25 disposals, 6 clearances, 6 tackles. The 209cm ruck can do it all, I'm telling you. Melbourne struggled in the first half of their Anzac Day Eve matchup against the Tigers, filled with skill errors, brain fades, and general disappointment. But the Demons clicked into correct mindset and gear and surged to victory in the second half. Now, this is a bit off topic, but also at this game, it's Aussie the Eagle's 200th flight, which if you guys don't know who Aussie the Eagle is, before every single West Coast game, about 20 minutes before, there's a real life eagle who flies around Optus Stadium. Now let's get back into the context of the game. West Coast at home though, we saw how they played at home against the Dons. They definitely had some improvement. They definitely had some improvement in Hawks game, if you couldn't tell if you weren't a West Coast fan. They played very, very good footy in my opinion, except for that second quarter. People were definitely saying it was a blowout, but in my opinion, a blowout for Hawks in this situation would have been 100+ points. But West Coast is starting to improve lots and lots and lots more, especially at home, which I might sound biased here, but I'm going to go West Coast to win this game. I feel like it's just the right time for West Coast to get their first win. This is a one chance where West Coast can get their first win of the season, and I feel like the time is now. Now moving on to the Sunday game, starting off at 1:10 p.m. at the SCG, we have Sydney taking on GWS in the Battle of the Bridges. The Swans just let the Suns roll all over them last week, especially in that second half. The Swans are leading the game by 29 points late in the second term, but they let the Suns kick 12 consecutive goals to give the Suns a 38-point victory on home soil. The Swans could not win the ball at the contest. When they won it back in the defensive 50, they continued to gift Gold Coast chances with very poor turnovers from the Swans. Chad Warner, after his 24 disposal, 2-goal performance, he went on to sign a 2-year contract extension with the Swans, shutting the rumours of him moving to WA down. Last 3 times these clubs have played, Swans have beaten them, and the 2 times in the home and away season of 2024, the Swans beat them by 25 or more points. Now looking at the Giants' performance last week, after last week's performance against the Dogs, the Giants went from 4th to 6th as they suffered back-to-back defeats. Riccardi led the Giants forward line as he went on to kick 3 goals. Jesse Hogan also kicked 2. Lockie Ash and Lockie Whitfield both combined for 61 disposals that game, although Whitfield limped off the ground in agony late in the second term or first quarter, I believe, I don't know. But he ended up continuing the game and playing to the best of his ability, getting 30 disposals. Now, with one of the stats that I mentioned earlier, the last 3 times these clubs have played, the Swans have beat the GWS Giants all of those 3 times, in the last obviously 2 times in the home and away season, they obviously won by 25 points or more. Obviously the last time these clubs did play was in, I think it was either qualifying or semi-final, and Sydney got the job done by 6 with Joel Amartey kicking the winner. I feel like since at the SCG you realistically got to go Sydney, and that's why I'm going to go Sydney. I feel like Sydney will get the job done at the SCG. It's just a game that they need to win Sydney. They've not had a good start to their season. This is a very important game for them. Now moving on to the MCG, 3:20 p.m. AEST, Hawthorn taking on Richmond. Now Hawthorn, they got a great win to get back on the winners list against Eagles, where they won by 50 points, even though realistically they should have won by more. Gunston kicked 4 goals and had a chance to kick his 500th goal in that game. He was about 1 to 2 goals shy though, so I feel like he'll definitely get it this game. Josh Battle had 29 disposals, getting plenty of the ball down in the back line. Hawthorn's midfielders, as I expected, were very underrated. Husway and Warple both getting 24 disposals each. Meek dominated over Flynn in the ruck, getting 58 hitouts, and Harry Morrison had 22 disposals and a goal to his name. Ginnivan also returned to the AFL again last week, and he had a very good game as well, kicking 2 goals with 17 disposals. Now Richmond were well and truly in the game due to both Richmond and the Demons had quite a few skill errors and just general disappointment for the first half, until Richmond just got ran on top of by the Demons in the second half. The Tigers did kick 4 late goals to close the margin, but it wasn't enough to give them the win. After half-time, the Tigers were outweighed by moments of frustration. Tom Lynch had 3 consecutive shots on goal and sprayed played them wide off target. Maurice Rioli Jr. gifted Harrison Petty a goal from the goal line, and Nick Voston causing a turnover which ended up being a Melbourne goal. Richmond made lots of mistakes last week, and it's really, I feel like it will probably come into this week as well. But obviously Hawthorn. They play super well, and especially their performance that they said to everyone, we're back on the winners list last week against West Coast, was absolutely amazing, which makes me go to tip Hawthorn right here, right now. And the final game of the round, Brisbane taking on Gold Coast. 7:20 p.m. at the Gabba. Now, Brisbane had a strong comeback after losing by 52 points to Collingwood in round 6 by getting a great win over St Kilda by 45. Lachie Neale's work around the stoppage was exceptional. In his head-to-head contest with Jack Steele, it was a surprise that he was winning the contest. Expertly dragging Steele into the bottleneck, then going out into space to win the ball. Neale led the Lions to victory with 31 disposals and 3 goals. The Lions midfield wasn't only dominated by Neale. McCluggage had 21 disposals and 6 clearances and a goal, and he worked through a Marcus Windhanger tag. Will Ashcroft also had 35 disposals and 4 clearances that game. Dane Zorko had yet again another great game in the back half, 34 disposals and 656 metres gained. Another game added to his very impressive season in 2025. Gold Coast in the first half, the Suns could have barely played worse in that first half as they fumbled and bumbled their way to a 29-point deficit. After the Suns midfield was getting belted early on, the Suns kicked 6-6 to 0-1 in the defining third quarter, feasting on the back of 15-3 clearance advantages and 18-5 inside 50s. The Suns just ran over the Swans in the second half. Bailey Humphries kicked 4 that game, including an amazing goal from the centre square. And Ben King is currently leading the Coleman medal tally after a 5-goal outing at People's First. Now, after looking at last week's performances, Gold Coast, they just had a very poor first half, which makes me feel like I want to go to Brisbane in this situation, which I am going to go tip Brisbane. Brisbane at the Gabba in a Q clash, they always usually get the job done in these games, especially at the Gabba. They wouldn't want to disappoint their fans either, and that performance that they had against St Kilda was amazing to see from Brisbane, especially coming off a 52-point loss against Collingwood at the Gabba in round 6. But yeah, I'm going to tip Brisbane in this game. I feel like it's going to be a great game for Brisbane. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.